Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we're back with some more Total War Warhammer 3 news, this time with the full Nurgle roster reveal. Now, before anything, there's two things you need to know. Of course, anything that you're seeing is in a development in progress, so anything with details regarding laws of magic or mounts or whatever could change. I'm so tired of saying that, but I have to every time I do one of these videos. And secondly, whilst I did receive everything early, I didn't get a look at the actual layout of the blog, so stuff like images regarding concept art and so on might be shown at different times compared to the actual blog that you will see live on their website. But without further ado, let's begin because there's a lot to talk about and some of it is really cool. So we're going to start right off with Korgoth Plaguefather, which is the Nurgle legendary lord. Whilst other great unclean ones work to spread the plagues already extant, Korgoth the Plaguefather is fascinated by the breeding of new and virulent life. Korgoth aims to one day breed a contagion that can infect the gods themselves. The Plaguefather rides upon a massive palanquin bedecked with alchemical paraphernalia. Vials full of seething powder, flasks of indescribable liquid, and Hessian stacks stuffed to bursting with Nurglings. This great bulk is held aloft by a carpet of straining Nurglings. And Korgoth is attended on by countless others, all bred from the Plaguefather's pox vats. Yeah, I didn't notice the Nurglings when the original trailer came out, so yeah, that's my bad. In battle, Korgoth operates as the campaign's earliest available artillery piece, hurling explosive Nurglings across half the map to detonate in the ranks of his enemies. He's an expert spellcaster in the lore of Nurgle, a unique, powerful demon sorcerer who can bring more of those explosive Nurglings onto the battlefield and one very smelly boy. Okay, so on the tabletop he had access to artillery firepower with a special ability, so he's also got this, and I'm assuming he's going to act like a bolt thrower or something like that. We've already seen his stats being posted in the Total War Discord, because one of the staff members wanted to tease, and it looks like he can also summon in explosive Nurglings too, which is going to be quite fun. It should be really interesting. I'm imagining that that might just be unique to Korgoth, because, well, it kind of makes sense. But let's continue. While not a titan of single combat, he is still a great unclean one of immense power and renown, and thus not an easy target for anyone or thing. A great leader of his armies, and an aspiring figure for all those that bear the mark of Nurgle. From atop his palanquin, he preaches the word of his lord, inspiring all who hear it and don't consider it the most rotten filth imaginable. Okay, that's all fair from there, so yeah, everything makes sense. Lore of Nurgle, we expected that, and no mount options as he starts with the palanquin by default, which I think works pretty well. So far so good. I was really hoping that they'd bring in the artillery mechanic, and they've done so yeah, I'm really happy about that. Okay, so now we have our first bit of concept art, and that is of course of the Herald of Nurgle. This is your more humanoid type of lord choice. It's kind of hard to actually call it humanoid considering what it looks like, but you know what I mean. And it looks pretty damn cool. It makes me feel bad that I haven't painted up any of my actual Herald of Nurgle models in a while, but hey, let's not have Creative Assembly shame me for my pile of shame. Let's just jump into the actual details. The longer a victim can endure against Nurgle's rot, the greater in the Plague Lord's sight the resulting demon shall be. From the souls of such hardy individuals are shaped the repulsive Heralds of Nurgle, who march in the demonic legions as proof positive that even the strongest and ablest cannot indefinitely defy disease. Heralds of Nurgle possess a strength and hardiness that belies their rotten flames, as well as a jovial nature somewhat at odds with the world-weary aspect of their droning minions. Now, they are able to mount up on a Nurgle palanquin, or a rotfly too, so you get a ground mount, which I'm assuming will be fairly slow, and a tanky flying mount. Well, they were tanky on the tabletop, so I'm assuming it'll be the same way here. And as expected, they have access to two different laws of magic, the Lore of Nurgle and the Lore of Death, which works out quite well. We've already seen the Lore of Death, we've used it since Warhammer 1, so we're very familiar with it, and many people are really excited to try out the Lore of Nurgle, so yeah, good choices. So before we move on to the next Lord choice, we actually have concept art of the Palinkins of Nurgle, and they look pretty cool. I absolutely love them. They're more like the Epidemius one, but then again, I don't think there was a standard one and you just kind of had to build your own. It's the thing with Games Workshop back in the day. But yeah, this looks really impressive. Now this just makes me think Epidemius when? Soon, I hope. Alright, so we have a little bit more concept art, but this is quite exciting anyway, because it's the Exalted Great Unclean One, and I mean, like, look, he's thick. That's literally all the C's there with that booty. But they look cool, and it looks like we're going to get the variants. This is why a lot of people thought we had Rotigus for some reason coming, because this is based on the model with Rotigus, I guess, because of the cloth on his head. Still, it looks cool. I'm a big fan, and it looks like we're going to get a few different head variants, because, well, like, only so much they can do with these types of characters anyway. So let's read over the details regarding the Exalted Great Unclean One. In perverse contrast to his horrific appearance, the Exalted Great Unclean One is neither morbid nor consumed with despair. If anything, the opposite is true. Exalted Great Unclean Ones are exuberant in the pursuit of their euphemisms. Gregarious and curiously sentimental, they hold their followers dear and even refer to them as their children. They take great patriarchal pride in the achievements of their fellow creatures, proclaiming vociferously the splendors of the poxes and sores enviced by those around them, and bellow with hearty laughter in response to the destruction wrought in Nurgle's name. Each is a being of magical power near unmatched, imbuing the air itself with the necessary energy to render all around them into the fleshy slush of ravaged corpses. Within their bodies lives 1,000 contagions unborn, as well as the flies and beasts that feed off such sickness. At a moment's notice, they can unleash this on enemy troops, buzzing distraction proving as deadly as a foe as the cursed blades of the Plague Bearers. They have access to the laws of Nurgle or laws of death, and as you can imagine, no mount because... I mean, can you imagine how many resources that's going to cost to build the mount for something that big? Alright, so this is one I really wanted to talk about today. This is another hero choice for you, and obviously some concept art, the Cultist of Nurgle, and... I mean, just look at the artwork, it's absolutely grim. I don't know if Creative Assembly have ever gone this heavy when it comes to something. I mean, everything, even the Nurgle demons and the other demons that we've seen have been a bit more cartoony, but this is just grim. I love it, I completely love it. We do have some information regarding them, so let's just read over it. The fell gods of chaos ask for total and complete devotion from their mortal followers, and they grow strong upon the conflict and slaughter they unleash. In exchange, the ruinous powers offer their dark blessings, gifts that make the faithful mighty indeed. The mark of Nurgle manifests itself in a variety of disgusting afflictions. A cloud of flies accompanies its bearers, making them difficult to target. Cultists exist to spread the corruption of their god, Nurgle's in particular. His most devoted servants carry plagues and worse the world over, infiltrating towns and armies to use their very bodies as fuel for the spread of his glorious gifts. These plague cultists exist purely for that purpose, outside of the normal deployment of cultists. While normal cultists can serve in battle, they are a stronger force wandering the world, spreading corruption, sabotaging enemy plans, scouting, and generally making a rotting nuisance of themselves. Okay, so for some clarification, because I got a little bit confused here, yes, you can still use them in battle and so on, and funny enough, it's not mentioned, but I did ask a member of Creative Assembly staff, yes, they do have a mount option, which is a Chaos Steed, one of the usual ponies. But given the description, it's more than likely that these are going to be kinda useless on the battlefield, and they're very much more useful on the campaign map. I mean, it gets explained here over and over, so yeah. And yeah, not too bad, we've seen him, he looks kind of frail. Hopefully there's more to it when we get to see their skills and so on, but right now, nothing really speaks out to me. And a little bit more concept art, this time of the Plague Ridden. This is the Hero Plague Bearer, and if you're going to be worried that they all kind of look the same, don't you worry, it's kind of getting me too. This is the unfortunate thing with demons, when it comes to, say for example these, or the Bloodletters and so on, they're all pretty much the same stock, so they're going to look very similar. There are some differences, but from a distance it might be a little bit tough to tell apart. Thankfully, obviously, you know, you've got unit cards and so on. Now let's read up over their information. Though they share many loathsome features, Plague Bearers are by no means identical in appearance and ability. Yeah, tell that to someone who's painted over 70 of them, they all kind of look the same. For Nurgle's rot is somewhat variable in its virulence and incubation. Once infected, your life is over. It's simply a matter of time and final result. Those hardy individuals who may consider themselves lucky, strong enough to resist the gifts of Nurgle even, do not get the last laugh. They are shaped into the repulsive Plague-Ridden, who march in the demonic legions as proof positive that even the strongest and ablest cannot indefinitely defy disease. Ooh, bit of deja vu there. They are hubs of sickness, a beacon for their allies which increases their strength or rots away enemies when they are nearby. A plague-ridden is also a caster, destroying enemies through magical infection and disease as much as physical. And we know here, just like the Lord variant, they're able to have either the Law of Nurgle or the Law of Death, and the mount options are the Palanquin and obviously the Rotfly. So yeah, you can have them on foot, you can have them mounted, or you can have them flying. Either way, it's all dependent on your playstyle choice, which I guess works well. I'm more curious to see them on Rotflies more than anything, to be honest. We're moving on to infantry now, and we're starting off with Nurglings. No concept art, but then again we've already seen them and they look pretty cool. The rotting bowels of the Great Unclean Ones swell with pus and contagion, and within each swelling there grows a tiny malevolent demon called a Nurgling. God, this sounds weird already. Physically, they are miniature versions of Nurgle himself, with friendly mischievous faces, tiny bloated green bodies, and limbs that are often distorted or disproportionate. When faced with an enemy, they advance in a furious swarm, clawing and gnawing at the foe's legs, biting his ankles, and licking at any interesting sores or abrasions they discover. Notable characteristics are as follows. All Nurglish demons, so everything except for Forsaken and Spawn, share a couple of traits, poison attacks and cloud of flies. Both represent the constant sickliness and aura of disease that surrounds them. The latter increases the melee defense of the unit if they are in extended melee combat. Okay, so they'll have to be into melee combat for a little bit of while before that kicks in, which, okay, makes sense. All demons also share the causes fear and physical resistance traits, as well as granting immunity to terror and routing and causing damage when leadership drops. Yeah, we can expect all this. And lastly, Nurglings may deploy far out from the main force with Vanguard deployment because they're good little lads, just absolute champs. I wasn't expecting them to have Vanguard, to be honest. I wonder how that's going to work. Well, I guess you could use them as tar pits. If you're able to buff them up and keep them quite hardy, then yeah, this could probably work out quite well, but then again we'll have to wait till see campaign gameplay for that. And now we've got some concept art for the Plague Bearers, which are going to be your main frontline infantry alongside, I'm assuming, Exalted Plague Bearers. This is the first time I'm actually reading for the blog, and yeah, they look cool. Like I said, they all kind of look the same, but then again, Plague Bearers, anything which is a baseline demon is going to look very much the same. They still look really, really nice, and they've got a lot of variety of heads and so on. I imagine that the bodies won't change too much because, well, you know, Plague Bearers, they're kind of standard. And now for the unit's details. The rank and file of Nurgle's legions, crafted from the soul stuff of mortals who have been slain by Nurgle's rot. What little of the Plague Bearer's skin that can be seen beneath the discharge of innumerable sores is tinged with suppurant green and vile browns. Pus sweeps continuously from its single bloodshot eye, and from the demon's forehead protrudes a single horn, the mark of Nurgle's rot. Units of Plague Bearers are surrounded by a constant drone, created by the attendant hosts of plump black flies. Notable characteristics are as follows. What they lack in armor and skill, Plague Bearers make up for in pure strength and health. They are blobs of flesh ready to absorb the enemy and strike back. In general, Nurgle's armies are slow, the plod of an oncoming inevitable death, and Plague Bearers are some of the slowest. No matter how nicely they ask, do not hug. So essentially, yeah, they're going to be slow, but a lot of the Nurgle roster is going to be that way. This is a lore-friendly thing. However, by that logic, if they're following all that, these are going to be extremely tanky. The whole Nurgle roster is going to be very, very tanky, and they should be able to take punishment. So if you're getting hit from afar, you're still going to be able to hit the enemy by the time that you get in melee, and not just crumble by getting there. Well, that's the hope at the very least. Okay, so next we have the Forsaken of Nurgle, which is a reskin unit, but we were expecting a few of them anyway. I believe we saw one in the trailer recently, but other than that, there's no need to discuss them because we know what Forsaken do, and we know how we're going to use them in the battlefield if we're ever going to use them. Next we have the Exalted Plague Bearers of Nurgle, and their information is as follows. It is the Plague Bearers' eternal role to herd Nurgle's demonic forces in battle, as well as to keep stock of the diseases, allocate appropriate fates to each new victim, and attempt to maintain order amongst the naturally chaotic horde. These onerous duties have earned the Plague Bearers the title of Nurgle's tallymen in popular lore. It is all but impossible to tally anything amid the chaos of battle, though this in no way discourages the Plague Bearers from their efforts. They are the embodiment of the need of mortal creatures to impose meaning upon an uncaring void. Their notable characteristics are as follows: bigger, stronger, and more powerful plague bearers. The Exalted also sport a special ranged weapon, throwing small versions of the death heads at the enemy as they close. This has armor-piercing properties, but a very limited ammunition count. This also poisons like almost everything Nurgle does. This weakens speed and damage of any unit affected. Okay, so that's quite interesting. I wasn't expecting a mini range weapon there, to be honest. So I'm assuming it's going to be like pretty much anything like the miners with blasting charges and so on. Just very short range, but hey, that still helps. Especially if they can fire on the move or if you're just holding out in a position. So yeah, no, well done. I was surprised. Next we've got the Chaos Furies of Nurgle, another reskin, and we don't really need to go over the lore again because we've done this with 2 other gods. They do have some notable characteristics which are important for Nurgle though. For a slow army like Nurgle, the extremely speedy Furies serve as a harrowing and outflanking purpose unfulfilled by many other units. Yeah, so this is going to be the fastest unit in your roster more or less? Their poison attacks also mean that hit and run is effective for slowing down enemies and keeping them in combat for longer. Useful support for Nurglings with Vanguard deployment, as both will be killed quickly in a pitched unit versus unit battle. Okay, so poison and also Vanguard, these should be quite good. I wonder what use Furies will have as a whole, as, let's be honest, I don't really see them getting used much with, well, any of the 4 demon rosters, but hey, they could surprise us. They could actually end up being quite useful. I guess using them to go hunt down artillery could be useful, but yeah, they might get shots out of the sky quite quickly. Okay, so we got a bit more concept art once again, but I'm really excited about this unit. These are the Beasts of Nurgle. They were just really fun to use on the tabletop. It's just, they are so confusing and they're just so happy. Look at them, they're just smiling all the time. You're gonna love these types of monsters. They make no sense, but they just look so cool. Their details are as follows. The Beast of Nurgle is a truly horrendous aberration, no less deadly than it is morbidly and irrefutably ugly. Its corpulent form is both sticky and slimy, as a layer of infectious ooze seeps from every pore and orifice. Despite its fearsome appearance and deadly attributes, the Beast of Nurgle is an affectionate creature that behaves in all respects exactly like an over-friendly and easily excited puppy. It craves attention, greeting newcomers by slobbering all over them and petting them with its slimy tentacles. Once the beast's new friend stops moving, its interest quickly shifts on to another target. Now, notable characteristics are as follows. Regenerating flesh is weak to fire but strong to death. Oozing slime in all directions, even as it sits still, this magic clings to enemies and slows them down. A happy chappy James Martin game designer. Okay, so they'll be able to slow down the enemy, which kind of makes sense. Then again, poison does that, does it? Unless it's an added effect, which will be kind of cool. I used to love them on the tabletop. They were so completely random. Like, it's just really fun to see something like this. So I'm going to be quite happy playing these. Hopefully we can doomstack them. Okay, so we have some concept art for a new unit known as the Plague Toads of Nurgle. Now, these are very exciting because they were a Forge World unit. This means that they weren't part of the main roster for the Warriors of Chaos or Demons of Chaos, as this was an expansion in Forge World, and yeah, they weren't great. I'll be very honest with you, they weren't really great in the tabletop, but they look cool. I mean, just look at them. They look absolutely awesome. And their details are as follows. The blackest, filth-choked lagoons and lightless sumps of the Plague Father's realm have served as a spawning ground to all manner of demonic beasts and foul creatures. They are toad-like bags of brackish filth and pus whose wide maws can swallow a man whole, as well as being dragged along like pestilent flies in the wake of chaos summonings and demonic incursions. These malign demons are drawn to places of disease and decay in the mortal world, such as the dank reaches of sewer pits and stagnant mires, devouring the unwary that cross their path and finding sustenance in their suffering and befoulment. Their notable characteristics are as follows. Take the role of light cavalry or powerful war beasts from another army, though with their own unique gait and feel. Will smash aside lighter units with pure body weight, giving them anti-infantry properties, on the cheaper and speedier side for Nurgle. I don't know how a Plague Toad is going to be a light cavalry. I mean, yeah, I guess they're fast and so on, but these things do not look anything but lights, but hey. Next we had the Rotflies. No artwork was supplied, but we do have some information. Beasts of Nurgle, perpetually disappointed by the ragdoll inactivity of their mortal playthings, develop a kernel of bitterness in their ebullient souls. Crestfallen puzzlement leads to frustration and ultimately an aching resentment of the mortals that spurn its company. Aw, that's really sad. Over the millennia, a thin seed of malice grows in such a beast's heart, feeding upon depression and angst until it throbs like a canker at the demon's core. Eventually, the creature within bursts out of its fleshy sack as a fully grown rotfly, a creature of pitiless malice hell-bent on wreaking its revenge upon an uncaring universe. This is really sad. You guys, when you get to play Warhammer 3, make sure to hug your Beasts of Nurgle. I feel really bad for it. Anyways, notable characteristics are as follows. A fast-moving, armor-piercing flying unit makes a powerful Nurgle piece when combined with his other units, taking the opportunity to highlight our new flying toggle, which works well with Rotflies as any other flying melee unit. Oh, they can ground themselves too. Interesting. That should be quite interesting. See what happens when you aren't nice to a Beast of Nurgle? Look at what you did. You gave it anxiety. Bruh, who wrote this? Like, wow. Mean. Next we have the Pox Riders of Nergo, shambolic but purposeful. Where they can, plague bearers capture and harness plague toads to be their mounts, stalking and squeezing them from their filth-choked lairs in the darkest cesspools of the realm of decay. These Pox Riders, as they are known, often take the vanguard of a plague demon battle line, crashing into the ranks of mortal foes like bloated cannonballs, their riders' tainted blades slashing about them, necrotic filth and brackish blood spraying up from them as they fall, heedless of their losses. Notable characteristics are as follows: unlikely to outpace other cavalry on over large infected toads, but they'll give it their best shot. Their charge is, however, no less devastating, and the addition of a flailing, drolling plague bearer to the jaws and mass of its steed is not pleasant for Nurgle's enemies. If the unit is injured or is still replenishing after being hired, Nurgle campaign mechanic readers, is that a frog fraction? Why? Again, these are very much the same. They're another Forge World unit. Very impressive the fact that Nurgle's getting 2 Forge World units from the very start. Now, the interesting thing is, obviously, they weren't great on the tabletop, but the way they sound here, it makes them sound a lot more useful, so I can't wait to use them and see how they compare. I know I shouldn't reference the tabletop a lot when it comes to units, but yeah, I kind of do that often. Next we have the Chaos Spawn of Nurgle, and we're just going to look at the artwork, to be honest, because, well, we all know what a Chaos Spawn does. It's got poison attacks too, so yeah, you know that's going to be kind of useful, and they do have access to regeneration, but it's still a Chaos Spawn, and at this point we've got, what, 3 factions in-game? No, 2. Wait, Warriors of Chaos, Beastmen, and I think the Chaos Spawn are available for Norska? At this point, it's just Chaos Spawn all over the place. We're going to get a lot of Chaos Spawn. They look nice in green though, and that's pretty much all that matters at this point, so yeah, why not? And yeah, cool. I mean, it's not the most inspired type of reskin, but we'll get to that in just a few short minutes anyway. Next are the Plague Drones of Nurgle, but these are basically Rotflies just with riders, so let's go over their details. High-ranking Plague Bearers are known amongst the Demon Legions as Plague Drones, a title that conveys commendable humility, yet bellies the power beneath. These stewards of Nurgle's gardens ride into the mortal realm mounted upon Rotflies, colossal demon insects whose appearance is so repugnant it leaves festering scars upon the mind. From their lofty positions, the Plague Drones can properly tally the diseases running rife across the battlefield, as well as swiftly intervene should Nurgle's divine plan meet with heavily armoured resistance. When facing the unremarkable warriors of the mortal realm, a Rotfly will slowly digest all meat from a skull before spitting out a plague-infused death head that its plague-bearer rider can hurl at the foe. Given the chance though, Rotflies will hunt down the impertinent mortals that slew their previous incarnations. Opening their maws wider than physical law should allow, they consume their persecutors whole. So we've got 2 different variants here, the Flying Warbeast variant, which I'm assuming is just the one that you can use as Flying Cav, and then the Death Head version, so the range version. Notable characteristics are as follows. 1 extra angry, bile-spewing demon per Rotfly adds a mixture of additional stats to the mixed. Death's Head variants give a powerful but low ammunition ranged attack to help soften up targets. One more for our demon riding a demon tally. Yeah, we've got quite a few of those, to be honest. But these sound cool. I used to like them on the tabletop too. They were kind of annoying to paint, but still very fun to use. Next we have the standard Great Unclean one. This is the monster variant, and what you'll notice is that the only real difference is the size of the horns. Then again, they're not supposed to be that different because they're still Great Unclean ones, and they look cool. I mean, look at them. He's a big boy, he's got the same big booty, and yeah, it's a Great Unclean one. I mean, who doesn't want to use one? We've got some details for the monster, of course, so let's go over them. A gigantic figure bloated with decay, disease, and all imaginable kinds of physical corruption. The demon's skin is a necrose and leathery surface covered with pockmarks, sores, and other signs of loathsome infection. His inner organs, rank with decay, spill through the ruptured skin and hang like rotting drapes about an immense girth. From these organs burst tiny pustulant creatures called Nurglings, which chew and suck upon the nauseous juices within. Such foulness echoes the fundamental truth of the universe. Whilst there is life, there will also be ruin and decay, even unto the end of all things. Its notable characteristics are as follows. Has access to various spells from the lore of Nurgle, making it an all-around menace. Oh, cool, I wasn't expecting it to have spells too. I thought that was just going to be for the Lord of Change because it kind of makes sense for them, but this is cool. A Great Unclean One is a truly disgusting thing to face, spreading terror through the ranks of opponents as it digests them. Giant armor-piercing strikes can cut through fortress doors as easily as flesh. Yeah, we kind of expected that. I wonder if they'll summon Nurglings upon death, kind of like the Hellpit Abomination summons clan rats? I mean, that would be kind of fun, wouldn't it? And lastly, something very impressive, and something I wasn't expecting from Creative Assembly because, you know, they like to reskin stuff, but this is more or less a new model. Keep in mind that this is obviously very different to the first two that we've seen already. We have the Soul Grinder of Nurgle, and he's a big, fat boy. This is so important considering the fact that, yeah, you know, we had the other two and they were skinny and kind of ripped and so on, which is expected. But this is new. You can't actually get this. There is a Plague Hulk version, which is, I believe, from Forge World, but I think that was exclusive just to 40k. So I guess now people can say we actually have a 40k model. We're not going to go over the lore of it because it's a soul grinder and really the lore doesn't change, but we are going to check out the notable characteristics. The Nurgle variant of the terrifying soul grinder can vomit gobs of poisonous material at artillery ranges to destroy formations. Maintains great melee capabilities of other variants, making it a fantastic all-rounder. Other Nurgle passives make it hardier in combat too. So it's an artillery piece and also really good at melee. Think of this kind of like, I guess, the Necrofex Colossus? And I'm assuming since it's a soul grind that should be quite fast too. So yeah, this sounds cool. I'm excited to use them. They look really, really nice. Hopefully we'll get a nice shot of them soon at some point, as it would be nice to see it in action because, well, yeah, it's fairly unique. But that's pretty much everything when it comes to the Nurgle roster. A lot of stuff which came to as a surprise, well, prior to watching the trailer, of course, because the trailer did show off all the surprises, but it looks like Nurgle's roster is pretty cool. Paired off with its unique mechanics, it does look like it's going to be a very fun faction to play. But what do you think about Nurgle's roster? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below and let's start a bit of a discussion. This should be quite interesting because I know there's a lot of Nurgle fans out there. But with that, my friends, we've come to the end of our video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, might I suggest giving the video a like, or even subscribing to the channel, as it really does help us out. In the description section below are various links to different social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, and Discord. Also in the description section is an affiliate link with Element Games where you could buy loads of hobby-based products, not just Warhammer, for 10 to 25% off. Making a purchase using that link and also our special code, which is also in the description, supports the channel at no extra cost to you, which we think is rather cool. A big thank you to our patrons. Your support means the world to us. It's amazing that people want to help a small channel like us grow and get to a higher level of content. A big thank you to Gibraltar LUSC, Ryan Bertsche, Andrew Prince, and Okro for subscribing to us at our Fane level. You guys are super cool. And a big thank you to Edward Yule, VS Vasan, Aaron Whitman, and Shaggy for subscribing to us at our King level. Honestly, we can't thank you all enough. And lastly, a big thank you to all of you for liking, sharing, and commenting on these videos. Honestly, it's because of you guys that the channel's been growing at such a great pace lately, so we can't thank you all enough. But with that, my friends, thank you so much for watching once again, and we shall see you all again very, very soon. Have a good day.